Taking an already existing album and releasing that same album again is and has been a common practice in the mainstream music industry. But in recent years, if I had to be more specific, I'd say somewhere around the last 7 years, the music industry pulled out their flame shirt and their rollerblades and switched the difficulty up to hardcore mode and started spamming this move like it's one of those fast-paced Undertale boss fights. The word Deluxe has been ingrained into my brain. Every time I try to sleep, every time I close my eyes, every second I try to take my mind off things, I hear them. The voice, eternal attack. Deluxe. I want it all right now. Deluxe. Evermore. Deluxe. Line language 2. Deluxe. Trust fall down. Position. Deluxe. A great K after hours. Circle. Stop. You've noticed this. I've noticed this. It has gotten to the point where it seems like every mainstream album is guaranteed to get some sort of deluxe edition in the following months, or weeks, or in some cases a few days of the album's release, like Coldplay, Charlie XCX, and Gorillaz. It's like the new standard release protocol. But I think I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say that I can't help but wonder. Things like deluxe editions have existed for a while now, but never have they been released at this rate. So why of all times are we getting so many now? What is the purpose of them? Why do they exist at all? Wouldn't your catalog look more appealing and polished if everything said its own piece of work? And a good one to start off with. What are these deluxe edition things? An album that has already been released again, but this time with more music. And the presentation of these so-called deluxe editions might be the same as the original, slightly different, or completely different. But it's pretty much that. The original album's track list with more tracks. Therefore, something like a deluxe edition falls under the category re-release. Some call it a reissue, but I'll stick with re-release for the sake of simplicity. So the concept of a re-release is pretty easy to understand. Actually, Charlie XCX's Bread re-release title summing it up pretty well. But we still have questions, and there are answers to these questions. There are answers to all these questions, but before I answer these questions, tell me, what is this? Yes, it's Kingdom Hearts 3 for the Xbox One, but it's on a disc, a compact disc, also known as CD. A little plastic disc that can hold large amounts of audio and video. For instance, the first CD got made in 1979 and could hold up to 74 minutes of audio, while the best of the best vinyls could at most hold around 40 minutes per side, and the best of the best cassette tapes around 60 minutes per side. CDs became very popular in the 80s due to them being user-friendly, being able to store more content, and being compatible with so many things. By 1992, they beat the cassette tapes and vinyls in sales and became the new standard. Now, what is the purpose of me telling you this? What do CDs have anything to do with the question, why are there so many re-releases? Where am I going with this? Straight to the CD re-releases! With cassette tapes and LPs being left in the dust and CDs getting so popular, fans were like, cool, CDs, sick. But what about all our favorite music that we left on vinyls and cassette tapes and isn't available on CD yet? This obviously created a large influx of re-releases. I'm talking single albums. I'm talking remasters. I'm talking bonus content like photos and lyrics included with CDs. I'm talking Donald Glover Freaks and Geeks image. I'm talking box sets of entire catalogs with bonus unreleased music. 10th anniversaries, 30th anniversaries, 40th, you get it, just reasons to release beloved albums again. You could look at these as the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe of music re-releases. By that I mean the aspect of the re-release being necessary if you want this thing made for this gen to be compatible with the next gen. Anyway, these re-releases would get released over the span of decades, and the worthy projects became available on CD. Then we entered the 2000s. This is when the re-releases we know today were born. The fun but unnecessary re-releases. The deluxe editions. The expanded editions. Limited edition. The super deluxe edition. And all those other editions. But from the 2000s up until the mid-2010s, only the most well-known, the most well-beloved, the best of the best, like By the Way by Red Hot Chili Peppers, Talk That Talk by Rihanna, Good Kid Mad City by Kendrick Lamar, Recovery by Eminem, Long Live A$AP by A$AP Rocky, earned a re-release. Side note, technically anybody could re-release their album at any time and call it a deluxe or whatever. But at this point in time, there wasn't a need for a re-release. I'll explain this sentence in a second. So why would a label spend money, time, and effort on an album with no real demand when they could capitalize on the hype and commercial success of albums like these and release them again somewhere down the road? It could be months, maybe even years from the original release. Once again, unlike the prior re-releases we just talked about, they're unnecessary. But doing this extends the relevancy of an album. The new music and bonus content you get with a physical album gives diehard fans the incentive to go back and buy the same album again, and these are usually hit albums, so there already is a demand from regular consumers. In short, labels knew people wanted these, so people got more of these. You could look at it as a marketing strategy. But what some people might not know is how one of the main purposes of a re-release, till this day, especially today, is to boost the sales of the original album. Quick story time. It's 2014. I go to Target. I grab the brand new Globalization by Pitbull on CD. I explain to the employees that Pitbull's had as a globe on the album cover because he's Mr. Worldwide. They call me a fucking idiot and tell me to get lost. I pay $15 for the CD and leave. I bought one album, so that's one album sale for me. Or I could buy it on the iTunes store. Same story. Then a month later, Pitbull releases Globalization Deluxe with 5 additional songs. Me being the fan I am, I go back to the store to buy the Deluxe. That's another album sale from me. But the album sale for the Deluxe also counts for the original, so I technically bought Globalization 2 times. Now that's 2 album sales for me alone. But let's say I use a subscription-based platform like Spotify or Apple Music, and I listen to Globalization by Pitbull once. That doesn't count for one album sale. I'd have to stream the album around 1,500 times for it to count as one album sale for me alone. And same rules apply here. Streams for the Deluxe also count for the original. This is what I mean with there wasn't a need for a re-release. A single sale, digitally or physically, is worth thousands of streams. But once again, we all dived into the ocean of endless streaming. So we stopped buying digital albums mostly, and CDs almost completely. So labels had to push a breakdown CD's gas pedal and let that shit speed into a ditch and accept their new car called streams. But as musicians and labels were looking down on CDs laying in that cold ditch, they thought this means that releases, especially re-releases, will primarily be digital only, meaning not having to spend any money in printing CD units, meaning it's free to release.
Did somebody say free?
Guts spill. Call me if you get lost. Insane on Nitro Max. Fans see or hear about these re-releases, so they go check it out because it's new music. But it's still that same album. It doesn't matter how many times you re-release it. All these streams from all these re-releases will go back to that original album. And that's the objective, maximizing streams on that album. There we pretty much have our answers on all our questions. Let's go over them really quick. What is a re-release? An album that has already been released again, either with something new or adjusted or modified in some way. What is the purpose of a re-release? Maximizing sales. Yes, there are different motives, like extending an era, box sets, bundles, alternate versions, a double release. I want to say that because re-releases are bad is not what I'm trying to convey when I say things like their purpose is maximizing sales, which it does sound like. Pull that image back up. Yes, there could be more to a re-release like I just said, but in the grand scheme of things, it all comes back to this. The original getting more sales, so maximizing sales. And finally, why are we getting so many re-releases now? Digital releases. Thanks to the streaming era, releasing an album has become much simpler and cheaper since they don't require CD units. So there's nothing keeping labels and musicians from giving their albums the Dipper treatment when he made 10 copies of himself and still reap these benefits without any real costs. This is why we've been receiving them at rapid fire. But now, if I stop looking at it from the releasers and their fandom's perspectives, and widen my scope to casual music listeners and music fans that listen to a wide range of genres and artists, one key element of the re-release equation got taken away. Teenage Dream by Katy Perry got released. Hit album, #1 on the Billboard 200. People wouldn't stop listening to it and wanted more. So 2 years later, they introduced Teenage Dream: The Complete Confection. 2 hit songs that got left off the original. E.T. but not with a Kanye verse. A new song, a acoustic version of the one that got away. A remix and a mashup got added to the track list. So it went, original gets released. People love it. There's a demand for more. Re-release happens. The fandom, casuals, music fans, the label, musicians, everybody's smiling. Everybody got what they wanted. And The Complete Confection is just one out of many examples. You could practically replace it with most re-releases that happened prior to the streaming era. But now in the streaming era, the music industry picked this part of the equation up, and they did a dude-perfect trick shot with it. I don't think I have to explain why this results in a lot of bad re-releases. These albums are filled with tracks I don't care about. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me more tracks I don't care about. The fandom may be a little happy forcing that mediocre music down. Labels and musicians may be a little happy because they are getting streams and sales from those fans. Everybody else either doesn't care or thinks it's garbage. Not everybody is smiling. Not everybody got what they wanted. I feel left out. So I do understand it when music fans say things like, "This is bad. The music industry hit a new low. There's no effort put into these re-releases. The industry is selling out in plain sight. You're ruining the appeal of your discography." And to that I say, you might be right. A lot of the times the newly added songs don't add a whole lot, or in some cases anything, to the project. And yes, the fact that they have to milk things like this makes musicians look like that homeless emoji. But on the other hand, there are also some good re-releases that hold quality. I can't speak for everybody, but you know what? I'll just throw my arms up in the air and say, musicians already barely make any money from streams, and if some mediocre re-releases that I will probably check out once, then let decompose means I get to keep streaming all the music I want, I'll take it. They never took anything from me. They just gave me some garbage. And that's a good way to dumb this entire script down. Albums want sales. A re-release is an album repackaged and resold to help it do that. Sometimes you'll get something good, other times you'll get garbage. With that being said, Deluxe! Deluxe!